us are gathered here because we have a vivid memory of what happened a year ago. And like all traumatic events in our lives, what happened a year ago will always remain with us in all kinds of strange and profound ways. We remember where we were. We remember how we learned and observed. We remember how we reacted. We remembered with whom we shared our shock, our surprise, our anger, our pain, and all the other emotions that went through us. We remember who it was we knew who was closer to the tragedy of that day. We remember in the aftermath reading and watching and learning of the heroism of so many people, of the sacrifice of so many people, of the anonymous heroes who rose to the occasion and rushed in to try and find ways to be helpful without regard to their personal safety and with a recognition that this was an event that affected all of us at the most profound level of our humanity. I don't think even a year later we have all figured out how to integrate this experience into our lives. I don't think any of us, however sophisticated, however religious, however analytical, have found a way to wholly encompass this experience into our own sense of self, our own understanding of who we are and how we belong in this world of ours. I don't think any of us who are here today, and many others of us who are not able to join us, will probably be able to do that kind of integration for quite some time, if ever. But nonetheless, the reality, the fact, the tragedy itself is all part of our lives, and we must confront it, each in our own way, drawing on our own personal resources, our traditions, our experiences, and put it inside of us and make it part of our lives. For every time there is a tragedy and a loss and a pain, we have to eventually embrace it, understand it, and deal with it. We won't all do it the same way. We don't all react in the same fashion. We don't all see the same meaning. But no one is exempt from the necessity of coping with this tragedy and making it a part of our lives so we can understand and move on to do better with ourselves, with our friends, with our colleagues, so that we will value each other at a higher level, that we will find things that we can do in our own way to help in our own communities to build a better place for all of us in the future. This is the only hope that we have to learn from tragedies of this kind, is to say as we take it into ourselves, how can I take this pain? How can I take this loss? How can I take this anger? How can I take this experience and make it into something that is in some way positive for me and for those who depend on me and with whom I come in contact? How can I reach out to make the place better? For what we experienced a year ago was a very, very bad thing. And so I come to you as a new member of your community, bearing my experiences from that time and sharing them with you and drawing strength from your presence and from your traditions. And I'm grateful that you're here, and I'm thankful to be part of you.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon to you. We will recite Surat Al-Fatiha. It is the opening chapter and summarizes the content of the Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين صدق الله العظيم.
The translation follows. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and who go not astray. I end my words with the proper Muslim farewell that captures the true essence of our religion. Peace be unto you, my brother and sisters in humanity. Psalm 23, a Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leading me beside still waters, restoring my soul. God leads me in the paths of righteousness for the sake of God's name. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Eternal forever.
This reading is from Isaiah, chapter 11, verses 6 through 9. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the young goat. The calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play by the cobra's hole, and the weaned child shall put his hand in the viper's den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea.
Greetings from the Buddhist scripture Lamrim. To the Buddhas of all the regions in the world, I request with folded hands that they may kindle the lamp of love, peace, and compassion in order to dispel the darkness of misery in sentient beings. All the good and wholesome deeds I've done and accumulated may burn away the misery of all sentient beings. From beginning to end, I will live a life devoted to the benefits of beings. In the presence of the Lord of the world, I form an enlightened attitude.
Quickly I come to those who offer me every action. Worship me only, their dearest delight, with devotion undaunted. Because they love me, these are my bondsmen, and I shall save them from mortal sorrow and all the waves of life's deathly ocean. Be absorbed in me, lodge your mind in me, thus you shall dwell in me. Do not doubt it, here and hereafter. That was a reading from the Bhagavad Gita.
A recollection of September 11th, the day we forgot to live. How much is yogurt again? I asked my manager, Cindy. 90 cents, she replied immediately. As I mindlessly count back this nice man's change, 1,000 things run through my mind. My car repair that is going to break the bank. I still haven't figured out my BDIC classes for my major yet. I can't forget to go to that Commonwealth meeting after work. There you go, sir. Have a good one. Well, that's going to be a little difficult today, don't you think? What do you mean, sir? Did something happen? You haven't heard? He sounds incredulous as I shake my head. None of you know what happened? Cindy and a few others hesitantly leave their stations, wondering what this man is raising his voice for. A few airline planes were hijacked. They flew one straight into the World Trade Center tower, and supposedly there's one headed toward Washington. What? Yes, it's on the news right now. Empty grills sizzle. Registers lay silent as the television is being dug out of a storage room somewhere and turned onto the images of our fallen infamy. Suddenly, pumpkin spice coffee and breakfast sandwiches are not a priority as groggy students file into the small room with the dusty television to see if the rumors are true. They are. Can you even believe this? A voice said. I couldn't. I stood there watching the images of fire and mayhem and people covered in ash running away from the inevitable. Stilettos and Skechers, they all looked the same. Every person was gray. Race, age, occupation, it all vanished in the race for their lives. The phrase rat race now held a whole new significance. The camera focused on a middle-aged woman waiting on the street. The reporter approached the woman and asked why she wasn't joining the others to rush to safety. "My husband works in the tower. I heard he'd be coming down this street. Please, God, let him be okay. Please, Rick, please come to me." The woman's eyes searched everywhere, trying desperately to distinguish one gray mass from the next, her left hand pulling through her frosted hair, her right hand simply trying to clenched and wrapped around her waist, almost hugging herself. It looked like she was trying to comfort herself in the most painful moments of her life. I watched as this woman frantically looked closely at every passing face, and my breath stopped for her and my heart raced for her. It was too difficult to watch, waiting for her eyes to light up in recognition of her husband. I focused on her hand, saw how hard it was clenched, a tight, sweaty fist rebelling against the possibility of being abandoned on the busiest streets of our nation. "Rick, Rick, oh my God, you're alive." The rest of the words I'll never know. They were lost in the dirty shoulder of her husband. His arms wrapped around her, held her close. He had come. His arms enveloped her, but her hands still clenched. And I'm not sure if she'll ever really let go again. The man just kept saying he was okay. He was okay. As I stared at the scene, I thought how many people would never experience that reunion. So many would be left standing alone on that street, searching through the nameless gray. That half hug of clenched self-comfort would just have to do, because their husband was not coming. He was not okay. I'll never forget that woman's fist. Her thumb was tucked inside, her perfect French manicure clawing into her skin, the very image of desperation and fear. I'll never forget what absolute relief looks like, muffled in the shoulder of a loved one who had been found. Go home, Lindsay, we all are. Work was canceled. I stepped outside into a perfect September day. The sunshine mocked the emptiness and despair of that day. I took a deep breath, pushing to the back of my mind the thought that so many had taken their last earlier that morning and went on with my schedule. What was it that I have to do after work? Right, the Commonwealth College meeting. Since I was early, I stopped to get some coffee. I walked by a group of girls and overheard them saying that classes had been canceled. The only time classes had ever been canceled was due to snowstorms, but that day they were. As I entered the blue wall, my stomach turned, my ears stung, and tears sprung to my eyes, blurring the lasting image before me. The blue wall was packed and completely silent. Every eye locked onto that one television screen, staring at the unbelievable. That is when I finally realized that what had happened that morning was real. It had to be. There were hundreds of college students in the same place, barely even breathing. They were all focused on the same thing, not speaking. It would take a national emergency to accomplish that. No raisin bagels with butter today. Crumbling societies were on the menu instead, and everyone had a bitter bite. Would our kids watch videos of this day in their classrooms? Was this going to be a part of a textbook? Would it be a video clip shown during social studies, together with the assassination of JFK in Pearl Harbor? Everything I had learned about, it was always someone else's memories, someone else's experience. Now the experience was ours. We would be telling stories of where we were on September 11th. I stumbled backward out of the empty doors of the campus center, trying to forget the expressions on the faces of my colleagues. I had to go to my meeting. It was a feeble attempt to pretend reality was not caving in around me. There had to be something that wasn't affected by what happened, because that would mean that it wasn't that enormous, it wasn't that bad. But when I got there, the meeting was canceled too. They were organizing vigils to remember all those who had died instead, all those people. Children, moms and dads, spouses and sisters, best friends and sons. The meeting was canceled. My head was spinning as I walked through campus back to my dorm. Someone was ringing the church bells, and it was the loneliest sound I had ever heard. It was then on an empty campus at 2 p.m. by myself did I realize that everything was going to change. My world, my country, reality as I knew it had been transformed into something completely foreign, and it scared the hell out of me. The only other person in sight was the tall girl walking just ahead of me. She was clutching her cell phone, battling busy signals as the rest of the country was. I listened to her trembling voice and watched her fingers fly. Then she got through. She found who she was looking for. Connection established. She stopped where she was and sank to the ground. "Oh my God, are you okay?" I was so scared. Sobbing relief and dirty Gucci jeans. Connection established, and that's all that mattered that day. The dorm hallways buzzed with newscasters' objective reports while never silent students stared on, waiting for answers that weren't going to come. I just wanted my mom. We all did. We weren't so tough that day or so smart. Our lives, our petty lives that had been filled with busy schedules and complaints about how gross grab-and-goes are, and the naive notion that we are educated people, that we are grown-ups, it all fell away. And we finally shut up long enough to understand how fragile everything was. The entire infrastructure of America that has allowed us to become a dormant generation governed by self-achievement can actually be taken away from us. Everything that was normal to us was forgotten that day. Work, meetings, and classes. Everything scary and real and significant took their place. It was a cancellation of the daily schedule we mindlessly abide to, the end of a time when terrorism was what happened in other countries. We forgot about our roles as students. We forgot about all the ridiculous details that make up the canvas of our lives here at UMass. We forgot to live our lives the way we have always lived them. We forgot about expensive jeans and giant societies. It didn't matter if you had a major that day at UMass, or how much money was in your checking account, or what the price of yogurt was. That was the day that was canceled. It was the day we forgot to live. And it was the day we finally began to think.
Deep thanks to you for being here this evening to remember the lives of those who perished in the attacks a year ago today. All of us who grieve their loss are heartened by the coming together of communities like this across the country and strengthened by the testimony that their lives live on in us. After the tolling of the bells for a moment of silence, and as the carillon plays, I invite you to process into the Student Union ballroom in memory of those who have died, for a reflective gathering, affording the opportunity to talk, think, write down your thoughts, listen to music, enjoy light refreshments, and give back some of yourselves to others who might need you. Thank you all for coming.
We invite you now to process inside.